Sorry.
All right, we're live. Here we go. So, welcome everybody to the Geek and Patriots Shop Talk Saturday, episode 1. I'm joined by Jason Schultz, artist and creator, Lloyd Vincent Shooter, creator, writer, publisher, and Nick, Mr. Vendageek himself out of New Mexico. He'll be back with us shortly. And so we got something we want to talk about here. I'll put this together because I wanted to kind of touch on the topics that people don't really talk about at shows and with fans and that kind of stuff. So we'll get to that in a minute. But did any of y'all see the new trailer for Warrior Nun?
I haven't yet. I've got it. Somebody sent me the link, but I haven't watched it yet.
I think Warrior Nun has some possibilities, but it needs to stay close to the source material.
Yes, I believe so.
Because it's an anarchy. If you don't know, it is an anarchic press book, and it's by Ben Dunn out of Texas, and it's kind of cool to give that Netflix is giving small publishers an outlet for their creations and bring them to life instead of just the movies. And I think they can do so much more on a small screen than they can do on a bigger screen. Because you don't have that, you have a rating system, but it's not really as strict as the Motion Picture Association. So for you that have seen it, what are your thoughts on it?
Maybe I've seen it. I've actually seen the preview on it, and I have to admit, I actually enjoyed it. It was something that I also like the fact that it's coming from Netflix, which does give them a lot more legal and doing things versus like you have to worry about doing it in a movie theater or a movie or in some other outlet. Netflix I've seen it with Netflix. A lot of projects going through Netflix tend to have a little bit more legal being able to do certain things that they want to do and stuff. So I like the fact that it's going on with it.
I would say technical difficulties, but I'm an idiot and didn't turn my right speaker on. But this isn't like your normal show where we're gonna talk and then we'll go back and edit out a bunch of stuff. I want it to be as real as possible. I want to get your real feelings. I mean, we're gonna record it and I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna put a simple title sequence in front of it. I want to get your real talk from you guys because it's something that people sugarcoat too much crap in this industry, and you get people who are like, oh, I didn't really mean to say that. I meant it like this instead. I want to hear your words, your feelings, all that stuff. So, the HBO Max series. What do y'all think about them releasing the Snyder Cut?
It's never going to be a Snyder Cut. Whatever people think of as a Snyder Cut is their production cut, which was well over 4.5 hours. And it was unfinished. It didn't have soundtrack. There was still plenty of effects work to be done. And so now they're going to go back in and turn it into a series. They're going to break it out. They're going to expand on it. They've got a huge budget for it. So it's not the Snyder Cut. It's not what people think they were going to get. To me, we have something going on in the industry where I think do-overs, mulligans, didn't do as well as we'd hoped. So now we're going to redo it and put it out as a director's cut. We're going to put out an extended cut. And as long as you have the original material there, that's fine. It can be those. But if you have to go back and refilm something to make it complete, it's not a completed product. And then you get the benefit of hearing from all the audiences who complained and what they were angry at, and you can fix all that after the fact. Now, do I want to see the series? Yes, I do. But I just hate the moniker of Snyder Cut because it is anything but the Snyder Cut.
Do y'all think that? Do y'all think with Ben Affleck reprising his role as Batman for this film is going to hurt the new Robert Pattinson film?
From my take on this, I don't think it will. I think actually, when you look at the new Batman that's coming out soon, it's obvious it's its own instantiation of a Batman story. Just like um, the Christian Bale version was its own instantiation of Batman. It was its own world. Ben Affleck, same thing. It's his own instantiation of his own world. And the only world that we kind of look at as in the Batman sense that is kind of conducive to each other was the first four films: the Keaton, the Clooney, and the Kilmer. Those were all the same universe. It was the same Batman, just different Bruce Wayne. After those, we had our different ones. So bringing Ben Affleck in, letting him remain as Batman for this Snyder cut, it's just staying on track with that universe of Batman.
So you don't think this is Warner Brothers kind of saying that they don't have a lot of faith in Pattinson?
Well, I would look at it, they kind of had the same idea of, not Warner Brothers, but the same idea when it came to Heath Ledger's Joker, which a lot of people say was probably one of the greatest portrayals of the Joker. By them doing this, I don't think they're taking away from Pattinson's Batman, but I don't think they're adding anything to it. I think they're just going to let it do its own thing. They're going to remain with Ben Affleck as this Batman. Pattinson's going to be his other Batman.
You think if they assign Affleck to a deal where he comes back and does the supposedly the Deathstroke Batman feature film outside of the Pattinson Batman, that'd be a good thing for the industry to have two different Batmans out there? Or do you think it could harm the franchise?
Well, I think, for one, that the way that DC is set up is not the Marvel. They're not building up an expansive universe. They're building up and playing upon that multiverse, where how they use that to explain the different heroes throughout the ages. You know, like the Superman change throughout the ages. My favorite was from the old Superman family era in that time, and then the Brian's version and revamp of Man of Steel.
Yeah, I agree.
But like with Jared Leto is the Joker, I liked that.
So you're saying that? Do you think that when they did Crisis here on TV, they actually showed the Flash from the movie series in an alternate reality, in an alternate universe? That was the most brilliant thing they could have done, because that they showed the branching of the universes.
Yes.
There's not one DC universe. There's several. There's a 52 verse out there.
Yes.
Unlike Marvel, where Marvel's the MCU, DC extended universe is actually that extended.
One of the things that DC is done is tried to give the different people, the different creators, their own take on an established character. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. I happen to think that if you're going to allow somebody to come in and play in somebody else's sandbox, that if you're not going to make them stick to established continuity, then you should at least let your audience know this is an Elseworld. I love the idea of Elseworld.
Me too. When I hear this new Batman movie is gonna be like a black label Batman, and so it's more of an adult book. Sorry, excuse me, adult movie compared to your kid friendly movie where the Keaton was more kid friendly, even though it wasn't. If you go back and watch it, look at the tone of the film, it really wasn't a kid film, but the later versions were.
But it was a dark film where that, and the comedy helped lighten it up.
Yeah.
I got to ask the other people on the panel here. With Batman, we have yet to see a detective version of Batman.
Correct.
The best adaptation of that was the old Batman cartoon show, where they showed him in disguise interacting. He would disappear for days, and then he would be in front of the lab doing tests, or he'd be on the computer. We've yet to see that. We've seen little
Well, I think the
snippets.
problem is that fans expect to see, when they hear Batman, they don't expect to see the Dark Knight Detective. They expect to see Batman. And if you're seeing the Dark Knight Detective, then you lose the that's their, even though for us long-term fans, we know that's the true essence of the character. We understand that's the true essence of who he is and what he's made up of. But casual fans who just go see the movies, who just see the TV shows, they don't really understand that he is this great detective, and he is more than just Batman.
Well,
See,
from
I-
my understanding, and this is what I've read on just the snippets, the articles that have come out about the Pattinson Batman. They're focusing more on the detective nature of Batman and not so much him fighting Two-Face or Clayface or something like that. It's him actually trying to solve a mystery, figure out what's going on, which is going to be fantastic because that's actually something I'm really looking forward to seeing in this new Batman. Now, you're right. The rest of the Batman, all the live-action ones, there hasn't really been that much of a detective nature to it. Christian Bale touched on it when he was trying to rebuild a shattered bullet. Keaton did it when he was trying to figure out who the Penguin was in Batman 2 Returns. So we've seen snippets, like you said. That's why I'm really hoping with this new Batman with Pattinson that he brings out the detective nature of the character, and we actually get to see more of a human side, not this fantastic superhero side that we've seen in every other movie.
I read something the other day that they're actually, after this film, they're not doing a immediate sequel. They're actually doing a Catwoman and then a Penguin movie, and have him elaborate and become more detective than he ever has before. So it's not going to be a Batman trilogy in your classic sense, where instead it's being more of a trilogy for just him becoming a detective in every sense of the word, which I think would be a brilliant take. You can have your main focus be a villain, and then you have Batman being the detective behind the scenes. I think that'd be great.
I'd also like to see him show more of the training. I mean, we got a little bit of that with Batfleck, but I want to see him because he's just not a superhero. He's a human who has to push and drive himself. I want to see him do acrobats. I want to see him.
He's a normal man that plays with the gods. So let's go on to the next topic. We can really get into some nitty gritty shit. Here I said let's get it family friendly, and here I am dropping the first 4-letter word. Like
hey, just like in Marvel, you're allowed one time.
I'm allowed one, yeah. So have any of y'all seen? I know Jason, I know you haven't. Have any of y'all seen Stargirl?
Love it.
Love it too. Now, how about you, Nick? You seen it yet?
Not yet.
All right, then sit this one out. This. I'm not gonna spoil anything. But I will praise it. So, why do you love it?
Because it is a beginning point that doesn't destroy what went before. It allows that who are fans of the old Justice Society, and this is a new take on them. So we're going to get to see them build a new team around Stargirl. Now, my one fear is that they're going to either make this too much of an all-female superhero cast, or I hate to say this, but I'm kind of tired of the politics in comics for a minute.
Yeah,
I enjoy and have fun seeing something that reminds me of when I was a kid and why I read comics. We can still have the politics, we can still have the discussion, just like with science fiction, but it's sometimes just let it go for a little bit and just enjoy. And Star become a hero is that whole stepping off point for little kids to come into reading. Because you get them into this show, then you get them into reading into the comics, and we can help keep this industry alive.
Yeah.
Because we right now do not have an ability to bring in new readers.
Well, honestly, I think this show resembles the comics so closely, especially with Stripes. Stripes has done so well. If you're a fan of that character, like I am, I was over the moon. I was like, yes. They played Johnny Cash in the background music when they introduced his training. I was like, I'm sold. By episode 2, I was like, this is my show. But I think this show resembles the comics so closely that they need to talk about that more. They need to say, hey, catch her adventures monthly in this book, and not just make it about a teenage drama. Because it is a solid show. I like that they're bringing up the classic design suits. You can see the Alex Ross influence on the portraits, the characters. I mean, they show Johnny Thunder stuff, which is what I never thought you would see Johnny Thunder, and then and then your Lantern stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a bright future with this. If you haven't seen this show, I will tell you, I give it at least an eight out of 10 right now.
Yeah, I'm
Although,
thinking.
It's really well cast.
um,
I mean, Luke Bridges Jr. plays a pivotal role in it, which I was shocked. And then Henry Thomas plays a pivotal role. But the one thing they did right is that they did really shortly what they haven't done in Marvel for a long time. They showed what it takes to lose somebody close to you, like directly from like minute 1 in this film, and then Joe McHale as Starman and Floyd. You can vouch for this one. He was such an obnoxious Starman.
I know
You wanted to hate him, but he looked so good as a character.
the one of the.
um,
Go ahead.
I was on Twitter and I saw the thing that went down about Alex Ross talking about them using the images. What was you guys thought on that? Did you guys not see that? I don't know if you guys saw his Twitter response when he was showing the images from Fargo and how closely he was saying how closely Fargo looked to his outlook.
No, I'm gonna have to go look at that. Is that on his Twitter?
It should be on his Twitter. Yeah, he was kind of like, it kind of sounded like he was really irritated with it. He felt that they should have given him credit for it or something. Because how close Fargo looked to his character that
One of the things I'm looking forward into the show is the distinction between the two types of Green Lantern, the mystical, and then the Owen. But I want to see a good Solomon Grundy. I'm sorry, Grundy's not the Hulk, and everybody's turned him into the Hulk, and he's his own character. And I just want to see him trade right. Because I've been waiting for a long time to see him on like the Flash or something else,
Yeah.
and he hasn't made that leap yet.
Didn't they try to do him? They tried to do him once on Flash, didn't they?
I don't remember him being. I don't know if they cut a deal with him or to get him on the show, because there've been lots of characters that
I thought they did. I thought they did one time before they introduced King Shark. I thought they did once, like early on.
Well, in Gotham, they did introduce Grundy in Gotham.
They did, didn't they? Because
Yeah.
I watched all of it. I only missed half of one of the seasons.
I couldn't get into Gotham. I couldn't get into Gotham. To me, it should have been more of a Gotham PD show instead of about young Bruce Wayne.
Well, I think wasn't that the original?
That was an original premise.
Yeah.
Then they got away from it to go focus more on the Dark Knight aspect of it, and that's when I was like, nope, I don't like it.
I just wish they'd have stuck with Gordon and him becoming the man that we all know.
Exactly, because I mean, we all there's iconic characters in that universe that we like to watch and be set up. So let's go on move forward. So, did any of y'all see do y'all know about the new G.I. Joe classified line? the line of 6-inch toys.
I should just saw the Cobra Commander when I came out. I admit, that looked nice.
The
It
Cobra
looked-
Commander exclusive sold out in 17 hours worldwide.
Yeah, those are the 6-inch, right? The slightly larger.
Yeah. But they just announced 2 days ago they're doing a retro line exclusively at Walmart, 3 and 3/4 inches toys. Kind of like they're doing they said they call it the classic line or something like that. I mean, I know they're trying to do what Star Wars is doing. How they have the smaller figures and the larger, more adult figures, but without some kind of franchise out there, with some kind of movie other than just comics. Because you know, let's be honest, the comics don't sell like they used to. You think to have those two toy lines out there, you think they're going to be successful without some kind of uh, without something to bring the fans in?
Well,
My opinion on this, and this is the thing that I've actually talked to a lot of people about. Advertisement's a big thing. That's why I think it's with the movies and stuff like that. You see people like saying that movie revenue and stuff. And I think advertisement that's going to be a big thing in order to do it. If they don't get it out there to let people know that it's out there, people are probably not going to know it. And I mean, it's like there's been many good movies that have come out, but they haven't done good because people didn't know about it. I mean, I'm in a small town right now, and I can't even begin to tell you how many really good movies and things, stories, and comics and whatnot these people do not know about yet, which they could easily find out just by simple a little bit more extra advertising. And I mean, it's that's my opinion on it. But will it be successful? I mean, it's hard enough.
I think for our generation, I think it's going to be successful because it's going to give us the stuff we remember from our childhood and our young adulthood. But I think with them releasing all the G.I. Joe on YouTube, which is a huge thing, they need to release it again on Netflix or Hulu or something like that to kind of get this modern day audience attached to it, because the movies are terrible. We all know that.
Well, I think if they were smart, if you remember back when the new version of Joe came out, they did a comic to help sell it. But before the comic came out and before the cartoon came out, we had these little mini cartoons of the action figures.
Yeah, remember they had the commercials were actually like mini cartoons. Those are the best commercials ever. I love those commercials. To this day, you can't find commercials like that.
And there's a new
Catch the Avengers and the pages of Marvel Comics. Remember them advertising comics on TV as cartoons.
yeah.
I mean, that if they got back to doing that kind of advertising, it'd be a great thing for the industry, and it show a lot of it would show a lot of return.
Now there is a new G.I. Joe movie, but it's going to focus its
On
character for Snake Eyes, but also the toys have shifted. They're not for little kids anymore.
Yeah,
most
they're not.
kids can't afford them. I like the Black series, and there are characters, but I don't like the fact that they keep reproducing the same character.
Same mold.
Yeah. So I would like to see some of the ones that they have in the smaller line done in the Black side.
Well, I mean, I'm just now getting into the Black series. But I tell you what, like I looked at GIJoe.com and they released a list of characters they're going to release for the next year. There's at least 28 different characters. And I'm like, I mean, some of them are fan favorites, some of them are, generic stuff. You're like, who the hell is that? But they're also dipping into, I don't know if you remember how G.I. Joe overseas was called Action Force.
Action Man first, and then
Action Force, something like that. They're actually incorporating those characters and those villains in this new line, which I think would be really cool. But they gotta have something to help promote it.
Well, I'm gonna throw this out. What did you guys think of the G.I. Joe? Was it Resolute?
Yeah,
I thought that was a good.
I liked it, but I don't like seeing some of my favorite characters like Bazooka and Shipwreck dying. So I mean, because they turned the entire cast from like 100 characters to like 8, where everyone died. And you're like, in my opinion, the entire thing could have stayed about Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow and kept my attention. Those two characters, the animation was great, the action was great, the story was pretty good, but they could have kept my attention with Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes.
Well, and then the figures they made to help from as part of that were awesome.
I didn't like them.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't care for them.
I really.
I like I like their accessories. I like their overall. I like their I don't like their design, like their stylized design for the toy.
Yeah.
If they would have designed them more like the traditional GI Joe figures, I think I would have liked them more. Because the character designs themselves were great. But when you try to copy animation, bring animation into toy form, sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, look at Jim Lee, Batman and Superman. They suck. Look at Michael Turner, Batman, terrible looking. As much as I love Michael Turner's work, his Batman figure was terrible.
I think it's funny being. I have a son that I was in the comics, figures, and science fiction and everything. My son followed in my footsteps, but with his own life. And now I have a grandson who is into his thing. And so we have these discussions about, because each generation wants to compare theirs to the last,
Right.
and why theirs is better than them. And I'm like, well, I've got one up on you guys. It didn't exist before my generation. We got that first experience of something new, something
Brand new,
in your hands, the marketing, and all of that. It goes back to Lucas.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have the industry we have now if it weren't for George Lucas and Star Wars and toys.
Yeah.
Because he's taught the studios that there's money to be made in the merch.
Actually, you know what? I was watching a documentary today about that. The very first, classified action figure was the 12-inch GI Joe, and the 12-inch GI Joe was scaled down to compete with Star Wars because of the energy crisis back in the 70s. And George Lucas was like, "Hey, I want to put these out. I want to control everything, but I want to make them smaller to save money, to make it more affordable." And he changed the entire industry. He made it where you can take three 12-inch figures and turn those into 30 small figures, and the entire industry changed. I mean,
Well, also,
from
also at the
play
same
sets
time,
to
if you look at the difference between the 12-inch GI Joes, the original GI Joe figures, and what George Lucas did with the Star Wars figures, the 4 and the quarter, I think, a 3rd-inch figure, it was based on the articulation of each of those figures. It was easier and 100 times cheaper to make 6 pieces than to make 20. And with the 6 pieces, you didn't have some joints, you didn't have moving hands or twisted. It was simple. 2 straight legs, 2 straight arms, a torso, and a head. So mass production of that and the ability to make a single mold would fit each of those parts was much cheaper. It was so much faster. So unlike the 12-inch GI Joe, Lucas saw the opportunity of being able to mass produce a single figure at half the cost and a third of the time it would take for standard GI Joe.
Man, I can't tell you when I was a kid how happy I was when Kung Fu Grip came in and you could move.
As long as you
he was hang them off of the small tree branches, the bushes. You put on the bushes and hang them right there on the branches with a Kung Fu Grip. Yep.
Well, and I'm gonna date myself here. I love the $6 Million Man's figure set that came out.
I had those as a kid.
G.I. Joe tried to compete, so they had the Bullet Man, and then they had the Atomic Guy, and so those things were just, I love that. But there was another toy line that I liked. I don't know if you remember the Lone Ranger
Oh
figure.
yeah, yeah.
They weren't.
I had those.
big.
I had Buck Rogers. I had Dukes of Hazzard, including the General Lee. I had the chest toys. I mean, I had them all. I had the 18 figures. Well, I forget what company did them all, but they did a whole line of the television stars. They all had their own action figures back in the day.
Well, and then who was the same ones who did the Star Trek and all of those? I had all of those too, but
Yeah.
the Lone Ranger ones had better articulation in the hands. The costumes were cloth, and the rifle. You had a safe that had a combo, and it looked like it didn't work, but it was actually the lever. And it had Butch Cavendish. It had Kano. It had the Ranger's family, his nephew. They tied in Wild Wild West to it at one point.
Yep.
Jim West, and then they had like Custer and all them. But I remember buying the bank robbery scene. I had to save up money and go get it at Woolworth. And I came home and my dad had given me these fireworks that were really kind of powerful. They were like what went into the M80s. If you ever took an M80 apart, you saw like a little stick of dynamite in it.
Yeah.
And so I came up with the idea that I was going to reenact them blowing the safe up.
Oh no!
Oh
And this
god.
was about the time Butch Cassidy and Son That Kid came in. And so,
This being a self-incriminating. Now you're self-incriminating.
oh, I know, because I blew it up. And everybody in the house ran out both sides of the doors, the back door and front door. And my brother looked at me and he goes, I wasn't in here. And he walked out, got in his car, and drove away. And he was egging me on. So,
Nice.
Well, what's been great though is like you guys have heard the new Kenner Ghostbuster retro
Yeah.
Ghostbuster figures, right?
yes.
The quickness of how fast those sold out online before they even got released was insane.
Yeah.
In fact, it took me a month and a half of COVID scrounging, basically. I ended up finding all of the figures.
Oh wow.
So I have all 6 figures, but if looking at the success of how that went for Kenner, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of do the same thing with Hasbro coming with the G.I. Joe figures. If they,
I really hope it's successful because y'all remember back in the day, back in the 80s, where you go to Toys R Us, you see shelves and shelves of G.I. Joe stuff all over the place. It was so popular. And then one day it was there, and one next day it's gone. And you had to rush up the store to get that one figure. You had to have the the Stalker figure. You had to have rock and roll. There was iconic characters you had to have. So I really hope that this generation of buyers gravitates to these characters, and they don't make them so scarce. They make being a kid and a collector fun again, because it got to the point where it stopped being so much fun. It became more of a chore to go hunt stuff down. Like
Part of that comes from short shipping or short packing,
Yeah.
where they intentionally drive up the price of a figure to make it the collectors go out and hunt for it. Now, since we're on this, what do y'all feel about women action figures?
action figures, I think they really do. They have a solid marketplace, but because I have 4 daughters, and I've been to their toy aisle. I think their toy aisle sucks because it's like they put no thought and creativity into their toys. They create these little things for them to buy. These little you see them. They give for your daughters. They buy little things for the female the girls to buy that hold their engines for 4 or 5 days. They hold their engines for days instead of months and years. We went to a store here in Houston called. Lloyd, have you heard of Misfits Toys?
Yeah, I've heard of this. Actually, I think I've been to it in the past before I moved up to Dallas.
Okay. And so we went there, and my wife was like, I want that Rainbow Bright. Just private. this if they actually gave them franchises like that again, female toys, female action figures could thrive in this industry because there is a want for strong female figures. The best female figures though I've seen are the comic book related figures. They put no articulation, no creativity into the the Disney products anymore for kids.
Yeah, don't get me started on Disney products.
Well,
I
yeah.
They're crap.
So what I've seen is you have like that new the Shira on Netflix.
Yeah.
Those would be amazing toys, but I haven't seen them.
That is a gold mine waiting to
I don't
happen.
even think there is any because my granddaughter and I have watched all the seasons, and
Yeah.
she's always asking for me to find her some of those. Now I find the old series,
Yeah.
but nothing from the new.
I think there is. I think there is, but they're like online exclusives. They're not in stores.
And again, that goes back to what you were saying earlier, that a lot of toys that are coming out nowadays aren't really focused on kids. They're focused on old collectors that are willing to spend $20 to $60 to $80 per figure because they know that market's there. And it takes away from like my kids. My daughter loved Jurassic Park. When the Jurassic Park toys came out, they were very similar to what the Jurassic Park toys were in the 90s when the first movie came out. There was like really no difference between what those were and what my daughter loves to play with today. And you don't see that with all the other, cartoons out there that are more focused towards young girls and stuff. You've got like the Teen Titans Go, which I know everybody's got their opinion on that show. But my daughter loves.
I actually do Teen Titans Go because I view it as again that multi-universe for DC that it actually has a place, and it's not the same universe as Teen Titans. So,
For me, my grandkids love Teen Titans Go. I like Young Justice.
yeah,
It was the best thing on television, and now you can only, get it when it's released on the DC thing. And you have to subscribe to watch it. And
well,
there haven't
they
been
did say they released all that. They released all that on on HBO Max.
I hope so.
HBO Max is getting Swamp Thing. They're getting Swamp. They're getting all the CW shows, including Swamp Thing, Titans, Doom Patrol, and the animated series.
I would like to see. Did anybody watch the new Swamp Thing series?
Oh yeah, I loved it. Loved it.
You have to watch one episode.
Man, I loved it. You had to watch the entire series because it grew as
The only problem they had, it was on network television. If it was on HBO Max, like it's gonna be, they can do so much more for it because they're not held back by Big Brother watching it. I mean, it's not a show that it's a horror show.
Yes, they did. They changed it
and it had that tone. So, and to have it on the DC app, they're like the DC Universe app. Is more when you hear DC Comics, you think family friendly. And
I
when
don't
you hear,
Yeah. I heard
Titans is not family friendly at all.
no.
I
love that show.
I like the show, but yeah,
That's real.
my grandkids.
My biggest draw, it hooked me when you had a hawk being held captive and him talking about getting his nuts cut off. I was like, okay, it got me. Got me hooked.
Okay, I remember the episode.
Well, I got hooked on the first episode when you first got to see Robin taking on the 5 or 6 guys. And they're like, where's Batman? And he's like, F Batman. And I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah, and we were like, no, that can't be happening. I'm like, it can because it's online, but Swamp Thing needs to be on HBO, and they're bringing it back. And so everything I've been reading is that it's coming back, and so I can't wait for it. Honestly, I look forward to it because it looks so much like Bernie Wrightson's work.
It did, and that's what I really
like. I was like, wow. And I love Bernie. Bernie was one of my favorite people to ever know in this industry. I loved Bernie. I considered him a friend. Every time I saw him, he gave me a hug. We always chatted. Him and his wife were great. And when we lost Bernie, I was like, man, the world's not gonna be able to enjoy his Swamp Thing anymore. And they brought it out. And the Swamp Thing looked just like his work. I was I was like, he would be proud. Bernie Wrightson would have been proud of that series for the visual look of it.
Maybe it's something that DC just needs to do all together with a lot of this stuff. I mean, maybe they can put some deal with it together. They can make a whole universe in that manner, so it allows them to actually be more open and make this stuff.
Well, I was hoping that if we get a second season, they won't stay in the swamp
Yeah,
the whole season. I would like them to play up on him later on, since they've already jumped past him being Alec Holland, and by the end of the series, he was the Swamp Thing.
they need to incorporate Constantine into his show.
Yes, and then but you can do that by having him travel. Remember how later on Swamp Thing could go into the earth and then pop up anywhere else he wanted? And
Yeah,
we could really do a lot with a character like that. You know, that's the
you
one
can.
thing the Incredible Hulk, the old TV series did. At least you had that banner traveling.
You
You got
mentioned Hulk. Did you hear that they canceled Hulk
what?
as of issue 50? Immortal Hulk is now canceled.
No, I didn't know that. I wasn't really
Joe
into it.
Bennett. They actually wrote Hulk as a monster, almost like the monster within. It was beautiful. It was drawn. It was drawn so gorgeous. Joe Bennett went off the hook. He took that damn thing. He turned it into a beautiful, beautiful book. He turned it into, my opinion, the top 3 books at Marvel easily, and they canceled it within issue 50. So I'm like, because everything's so politically correct, I think they're scared to push the envelope.
I don't know about that because I think that they're struggling to find their stories because like Claremont's X-Men run was my favorite X-Men run, and those are I came in from right there towards the end of the original X-Men, and then issue 94 and Giant Size, and then I went all the way up until about 3 years ago, and I was like, I'm done. I can't do this. I've got complete runs of everything, and the only time I want to read an X-Men book, I'm going to go back and either pull out my back issues or I'm going to go pull one of my trades off on shelf
Yeah.
because I haven't been happy with what they're doing. And I think that's in the writing because it's all about the hero and how much power they have and how much
I think,
damage
I think, well, I
and
think
they
it's a combination of the writing and then the audience in general, because the audience in general, let's be honest, we're all creators of some sort. And Nick, you're a fan. So in your opinion, and so I want you to come back and with this. In my opinion, I think the fan base dictates what books can do and what books can't do. How you feel about that?
So from like a fan perspective of comics and stuff, and I've been a fan of like X-Men, X Factor, X Force. Big Marvel fan, especially like in the early 90s, late 80s when they started like really getting more graphic. They were bringing more real stories into it. That was to me that was like the pinnacle of comics at that time. And then I've watched as we got later into the late 90s when the movies started coming out.
Right.
They had to find a way of being able to take the comic, turn it into a film, and then be able to market it beyond what the fans of the comics were. And I think, and this is just something I've seen, the biggest drawback that I had at that time was like late 90s, when the first X-Men movie came out, you saw a massive shift in the comics themselves. Now the comics were trying to become the movies.
and that's
And,
what
and it's been that way with every movie that's come out. They've changed the comics to fit what the movie was because they think if people go see the movie and they like the movie story, they're going to come back and look at the comics, and they're going to see a similar area. And the problem is, for anybody who's trying to get into the story, trying to understand the character, why they are who they are, where they're going, if they base everything they know off the movie and then try to get into the old comics, it's like night and day. It's a complete difference. And for a lot of people that want to really become bigger fans of the comic genre, it's kind of disheartening. Because you'll take like somebody like a good character, Jean Grey. And in the comics, Jean Grey died like, what, 8 or 9 times?
Yeah.
A lot of times later. I mean, originally, she supposedly died, came back as a phoenix, but we found out that that really wasn't her. She'd been in the bottom of the lake, and that was the phoenix, which had a percentage of Jean in her. And the original Jean came back with X Factor. And then you had both of those floating around, and I think they made the mistake there was they didn't let Jean as a character continue to grow. Remember, if you remember, she opened the globe that had the essence of Jean's, the Phoenix Jean, and she absorbed that, and then for a while she couldn't figure out who she was, whose choices was she making. And I understand that's great, that is conflict in a character, but they took it in the most predictable ways instead of there was so much potential in it. And then after that, they just kept killing her.
It's like, yeah, we don't like this idea. We're going to restart. And that, I think, to me, the constant.
In my opinion, that was a money play. Every time there's a death, her death, they made it an event. And the event sold. And so I think they need to use the cells. They killed her off. When we got to the point where they couldn't do it anymore, they killed off Cyclops. They killed off, they brought him back, and they killed off Professor X. Then they killed off Wolverine, and they brought him back. It's all about bringing those cells up to a point where can they maintain the cells. Instead of just giving us solid stories like they used to during the Claremont run, they're relying on gimmicks such as death of characters, and then bring them back and making them into characters that does not resonate with us as being long-term fans. They change them into being what they want them to be instead of what they should be.
They became caricatures.
Yeah.
Wolverine was one of my all-time favorite characters as a kid. I got really sick and I had a fever, and that one issue after '94. And then through another one where they had to fight those creatures that were living on the property in another dimension. I really fell in love with Wolverine in that small run that they had. But later on, he became a caricature of Wolverine. He wasn't the person who was tortured with his animalistic side anymore.
No.
He embraced it, and then he ran around killing him. There was a reason that Wolverine was the best at what he does, but he was trying not to be. And that was when he was a very powerful character. And I loved it when he'd get in a situation where, I've got to let it go. And like in the one when they fought the Hellfire Club, and he comes out of the sewer. Man, and I read that until I had to go buy another issue. But then, and then I always hated that it wasn't Wolverine. They cheaped out and had him. Remember when Magneto pulled out the animated?
Yeah.
It wasn't even him. It was and I was like, okay, you guys. That's what worked best in comics, when they had somebody who was an archivist, somebody in the organization who said, well, this is what we've already done. This is what the continuity is, and these are where you can play. And it kept the stories moving forward. For a long time, it felt like they were going backwards instead of forward. And that leads into, I got to say, I having had my own comic store, growing up working in comic stores, I worked for a gentleman who I worked for a company, and when I left him and was going to go back to school, he's like, I want you to run my brand new store. And I said, only if I get to run it the way I want to. And he said yes, and I had free reign in the store. and my back issue sales were much higher than his. And his wife would come in and she goes, well, how are you doing this? And I was like, I find some area of common ground, like the younger kids who'd come in, and their first experience with the X-Men was the old X-Men 80s cartoon. And I'd start talking to them about it because they wanted those books. And they didn't have a whole lot of that cartoonish comics at the time. So I would go and explain to them how it really happened, and then walk them through and show them a few of the back issues. And then they would go, okay, well, I'll buy these and see how I feel. And then all of a sudden they're back next week. I want to buy another 10. And I tried to keep my back issues within an affordable number for them. Now the really expensive books I just couldn't. I would say you have to bring the parent in here. I got to explain it to them. They go, look, this is a $22 book. It's a $200 book. You could go and wait because X-Men did a thing called where it was all a repeat of the original books.
Yeah.
Back
in like between issues like 89 and 100.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, they did the whole run. If you missed it the first time, you could go back and buy them. And I introduced to them because they weren't worth anything.
Yeah, when they started reprinting the original series in their books before they rebooted the series, they rebooted it. They brought it back as classic X-Men.
Classic X-Men. That's the name of it.
And I used to love that because I was able to get the older stories in a new format with newer covers by Art Adams.
Yeah.
That's how I first got into Art Adams' work, was those stories.
And now the comics are going away. We've lost that. And if you do go into a comic store now, the people that work there don't know anything about the story, the back issues. They know.
There is a very rich history to this industry, and this industry, there's so much more to offer than just a comic book. If you actually look at the social bias of the world, this industry reflects what's going on outside of the real world, and sometimes it shouldn't. But I think like I said, when I get back to that, they said everything is geared about is all about getting those cells up. They create events like Fall of the Mutants, around massive that covered every book out there.
All crossover adventures. Yeah.
Like I have the omnibus set of it. And actually that story only runs 6 issues. Yet the omnibus set of that is 30 issues. From numerous books, numerous tie-ins that meant nothing to it. Yet that one logo created sales boosts for every one of those books across the board. And I think that's when it really started was as much as I will say that I love indie comics and I love the creative boom of the 90s. The creative boom of the 90s and the sales of the 90s created these tentpole events and all these books. Is that you have to have these. You got to buy this series or your series is incomplete. You got to be part of this. They created that need to have that massive storytelling in there instead of just putting out good books. They had good stories. And they had your shit crap, the crap that was just your filler stuff. It meant nothing. I hate that. I hate when you have filler books out there that don't mean anything to your collection or to anybody else buying them.
Oh, I called it the Borg syndrome because anytime Next Generation was running its ratings, we're down. Oh, the Borg's coming because everybody's going to run and jump and watch it and boost the ratings again. It's the stories that go in between those events that are really what keep your readers coming. Yeah, there are books that I cannot wait for the new release.
Yeah.
And there are those, I'll get it when I get it.
Yeah.
The other thing I never understood was taking a good artist and a good writer who pump up a book and get it back out there and get the readership up, and then immediately you pull them off and move them onto another flagging, and then that series tanks. This is how baseball. You have your what is that league called, where you bring up your people and you train them the way you want them, and you get them, you bring out the best in them. So as you're moving your older people out, you're bringing in the people that you. And if you think about how Marvel and DC was back in the day, a lot of the next generation people were fans, went to those studios and met those artists, would tutor with them, and then picked up what was best that they could learn, but then brought their own talents to it.
Right.
And now it's like, if you can draw something really cool and everybody likes it, it doesn't matter if it sucks, they're going to put it out. And to me, it's like music is a character in a movie. The setting and the background is a character in the movie. It's not just the actors, it's not the story. It's a combination of all those elements. And so when one of them doesn't work, it tanks, and people will catch on to it.
Right.
Yeah, completely.
Hey, gentlemen, we've been on here for almost an hour, and we're not really gonna. I got another show to do in about another 10 more minutes, so I kind of want to have this up, use the bathroom. So we had a fun time talking with you guys, getting your perspective on the industry. I think I want to do it again with you guys and actually talk about solid subjects such as. I actually want to invite a bunch of people on here. It'll be I want to get artists I know and talk about the difference between a published artist and an indie artist, a mainstream artist, and a fan artist. There is a big difference on that. Now I actually want, you know what? Let's go for it. So Vince, so Floyd, Jason, you're working on your own indie book, right?
Yes.
And Lloyd, you're a publisher
and a writer and creator.
And I work in indie comics. Now I can say I'm a former comic book artist. I'm no longer one right now, unfortunately, because of the situation. But you feel, as creative people out there, you feel that there is a need for fan art at conventions.
Jason, let you go first.
For me, from what I've seen in the past, and way in the past, and other artists that are actually worked on comics and stuff, basically, is there need for fan art? I think there is. Like for instance, if the companies are looking for artists, things like that, it gives them the ability to see how these artists draw their characters. There's a whole lot of studies and everything like that, and everything that goes around that's been going on for God knows how long I've been in the book out. But it's basically the idea of the camera is people love these characters and draw them in their own style. So the idea is basically, in my opinion, they are needed for the sake of showing if the companies like DC and Marvel are doing new artists and stuff like that, then they can see how these artists do things, and then go from there and do something more like free scouting. They can go around and see how these people are drawing their characters from there, and then if they want to use them in their comics, go draw their comics. They have it right there. They can see it right there. And from what I've seen, even in the past, when conventions were really visible back in Chicago, I was living in Chicago and I go to it. Even back when that's kind of like where Scotty and started out at and everything too. He was noticed that at the visit there. And then like I said, I ran into people like in the Green and stuff like that, and people like that there and everything. And that's why one told me that that's where they were found and everything. So is it digital format and everything going on right now? It's easy to find artists and stuff, but is it still something that would be good to have fan art and everything else like that? Yeah, because it already gives the companies an idea of different people's versions of their characters. And if they want to go with that style for their characters, they know who to talk to. But my opinion on that, like I said, he unfortunately would have been considered a fan artist as of right now, until my comic was out. But like I said, this would be something that's still getting a go-to thing for the companies to be able to find new artists, new writers, and stuff like that. It's not just like fan art; it's also fan writing too. And they can even look at that and see, wait, these are new ideas for our characters and stuff that people are liking and stuff like that. They can do that route too. Is it bad though too? It could be on the fact that it kind of limits creativity if you could kind of do fan art only. It would be nice if the people fan artists actually branch out and do their own creations, and then we could have more original questions on everything too. Like I said, it still goes back to do they just want to do artwork for companies or do they want to have their stuff? Kind of like how we all do.
Nick, you have got to have an opinion on this.
I do have a pretty strong opinion on it. I've been attending conventions since I was like in my teens, and I've seen such a massive change in the way independent artists and fan art have kind of grown throughout my experiences at conventions. I think for me, like the biggest thing I could see was in 2008, I went to the Chicago Wizard World Comic Con up at the Rose Center, and half of the entire thing was artists and independent publishers. It was just you didn't see fan art. There was fan art there, but you didn't see it right in front. Recently, in the last couple of years, the several conventions I've gone to, as soon as you walk into the artist area, it's all characters that are the exact same. It's whatever movie just came out. You have like 20, 30 artists sitting there, and it's kind of like a factory. They just turn out the same images over and over and over again, but they're not adding anything to the history of comic books. They're just recreating stuff. And this is one of the big things that drew me to Brian several years ago was Brian had his own characters. He had his own work. Just like you, Jason, you have your own characters, you have your own work. But you also know that in doing anything, especially in the comic world, you got to have something that people recognize. Even if it's your own take on it, you have to be able to draw those people to the table. But from what I've seen, 20, 25-foot tall banners of the same images over and over and over again, to me, is going to take you way too much emphasis at conventions.
Hey, Nick, I have a question for you, Nick. In your opinion, as a fan, does it matter to you that you're buying art from a published artist or a fan artist? Does that matter to you, or is it just a matter of the quality?
For me, I love the comic book industry. I love the creativity that's out there. So for me, I draw myself more to going to the independent guys, not the fan art. Fan art's nice. There's sometimes you find a piece that's just beautiful. I've got one in my closet that I haven't hung up yet of the primary 9 female X-Men characters all in battle pose. I have the image. It's a fan image. It's a fan art. But for me, I want to see things that are new, that are different, not rehashes of stuff that's been around for years and years and years. And to me, I get more drawn to your personal take of your character, your own creation. To me, that's what the future of the comic book industry should be. The new stuff, new blood. And I contribute heavily to independent artists because I love the work that's coming out. There's like, you can go to any convention, you're going to find 20, 30 images of Wolverine from different people. You're going to find hundreds of images of Magneto and hundreds of images of, mainstay characters that you see in theaters. But it's the characters you don't see. Like, you don't see Warrior all over the place. You don't see Swamp Thing all over the place. You don't see, a bunch of the smaller independent artists out there. But some of the best work I've seen has come from the independent artist scene. all the self-published comics. Like when I went to the 2008 convention, that's when I first met Dan Mendoza. That's right before Zombie Trap came out, like mainstream came out. And what drew me to his table was it was different. It was something that you don't see. The art style was beautiful. The way it was written was amazing. That's what drew me. But now you go to conventions, it's really the same thing, just every other table. And to me, fan of the whole genre, as a collector of artwork, I'm going to go to the independent guy before I go to a fan art.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry, on that, you should actually do a whole recording episode just specifically on this subject. And also going in depth on, I'm pretty sure you guys are going to know what I'm talking about. You know, you have your fan artists, but then you got the fan artists everything from scratch. And then there's the ones that, and Brian knows this because we've experienced this a couple times at Comic Arena. You have those, what they call, like, football artists. And in my opinion, basically, they do what's called onion spinning. They'll just drop it in Photoshop, and they basically trace it in Photoshop, and they're like that. I thought, no, it's not art. In my opinion, that's not art. You're basically tracing it.
I've seen that, the splatter art, where they take just a silhouette, and it looks like they just took a paintbrush in Photoshop and just clicked hundreds of times with one color in certain layers.
But what do you remember the time that I ran out that guy who was ripping off those artists years ago?
And
I remember there Rick giving him crap.
I remember, and it, they had to take him out, and because everything he had was ripped off of somebody else. And here's the thing, for me, and I've talked with Brian about this plenty of times at MiniaCon. We've had this blending of the industry. Back in the day, you had comic artists, you had independents, and then you had art, or just regular artists who focused on comics, and all of their art was what was selling at that point. And if it sold, they were going to reproduce it, create prints, and just run with it. And there's nothing wrong with that because that's free advertising in the industry. We need more advertising in this industry. But by combining them all together at these cons, it became diluted. I've always believed that the older comic artists and the newer independent comic artists should be together and working to help support each other. And then there are those people who do print work and aren't published, but they call it
claim the title comic book artist.
That's what they've never done.
The crap out of me. When I hear that, and there are some people I could actually name names, but I'm not going to right now, unless people start pissing me off. So these people are like, I'm a comic book artist, have yet to ever even done a cover for a book. I mean, I'm sorry, I've done work that is just now getting published. I've done work that has been put on the shelf and been sitting for years. Yet I still had my work verified. I remember years ago when I met Eddie Nunez and Carlos Deonda and Tom Wynn. I did a piece for the Nexus, and I thought I didn't think it was legit because I never saw the finished work. And then I met Mike Barron. I showed him the piece. He goes, yeah. He goes, I remember you. I know your work. And they all looked at me. He goes, you were a legit artist now. Congratulations. But that came after years of me paying my dues and trying and failing. But these people who do shows, who've never done that, who've never faced a failure of putting in work with a publisher, and then the publisher's like, you know what, I don't want to use it now. I'm good. But they still get paid. I'm sorry, they are not comic book artists, they're fan artists. And that just irritates the hell out of me. I mean, come on. I mean, there's a lot of guys like Bisley. Bisley is legit artist. He buzzes what it shows. you have artists out there who bust their ass, who are deserve this title of comic book artist, but they're sitting on the same row as someone with a 30-foot display of prints they manipulate in different scenarios to create. They draw one time and they take the color, change it in Photoshop, and make 30 different prints of the same damn piece. Say, guess what? I want you to buy it because I'm a comic book artist. Like, no, you're not. You're a damn print artist. Let's be real. You're a print artist.
See, and I think at the same time as that too is, I think the conventions themselves kind of have some blame on that part as well. Every convention I've gone to in the last 5 years, it's the fan art that is right there at the end.
Yeah.
Right there, as soon as you walk in, that's the first thing you see is just 30-foot tall banners of just the same images over and over again.
This also goes to your area there, Nick, because you have cosplayers out there who buy a costume at a store, put on, and say, guess what? I'm a legit cosplayer. You make all your stuff. If y'all have never seen Nick's stuff, this guy makes some really cool stuff on a 3D printer. It's always pushing the envelope with his creation. He builds his own armor, his own helmets, his own kilts. This guy puts in the work, puts in the program. Yeah, machines make it.
I need to talk to you, Nick, about creating one of the things I've wanted to do because our characters are our own. And when we created the threat, Mark and I, they were based on characters we've had from role playing, and they've aged. But one thing we did was a lot of world building because we wanted them to be realistic. And so I did all the designs on them. I had like Brian, I had a stroke. It was a small TIA, I think is what they call it, and after a heart bypass surgery, and it really messed me up. My hand shape, and it takes a lot for me to draw in it. So I have to put on paper what I'm looking for, and I can help any artist I've ever talked with to refine their work and bring out what's best. Because, I went to art school. I learned certain things. Like one of the first things I learned in art school was that there's nothing new under the sun. It's how you make it your own. It's your interpretation of it. And don't be afraid because somebody else has done it. But if you're doing a copy of them, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
So all of our characters are original. We try to ground them in science as best we can.
Speaking of an artist's point of view, fan art is useful to bring people to your table, and then to sell them on your stuff.
Right, but what I was leading up to is we get a lot of artists that come to our table because we're publishing a book, and they all have a comic they want to write or work on. And they'll show you these beautiful portfolios, but not one of them is sequential artwork, which is the most important thing you need to learn if you're going to be working in the comic. And so we try to pass that information on. I had one young man at one of the comic blues come up, and he had done a complete comic with no dialogue, and he was inspired by, remember the G.I. Joe issue? But the story, the images told you the story. When you look through his, I was like, there are gaps here that it doesn't feel like it flows. One is it's new characters, so we don't know how they act. We knew how Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes acted. We knew what they would do in those situations. So it felt like they didn't have to be any dialogue.
Right.
It needed some dialogue so that the audience would know who the characters were, what their motivation, how they act. And I was like, you're getting ahead of yourself. Because he didn't think it needed any dialogue. He loved his own artwork. I said, it's really good, but you're not going to gain an audience.
Right.
But just to clarify, I believe that we need to restructure how conventions are. And Mark has gone in and started working with them.
I think so too. I think okay, I'm gonna say this. I don't care if we get back to Mark or not, because I love Mark. Mark's a great guy. But when he first got started with Palooza, I was real skeptical about it. until he started making changes. They started making changes for the better, to make it better for artists. That's what I like. At first, also was Mark on that little golf cart running around the convention center, and I was like, "You little pansy, you all bougie around, walking around and everything." I have a bad back, I can barely walk. You know, a good damn golf cart was running me over. But him being from the publishing world, the convention world, helped a lot, and I
And
think
that's what he's trying to
it's
do.
gonna set if he's able to set it where you have your fan art one way, your indies one way, your pros one area. That's gonna help a lot. That's gonna restructure. That's gonna help. Uh, that's gonna make a lot of conventions take notice of that. And I think more. And if it's a good thing, and the money's good, and it translates well to the audience, I think more shows will do the same thing.
And I'm sorry, I don't know how you guys feel about. I think there might be too many shows and we're
There are.
oversaturated. Because if you've got one every other week,
Yeah.
people don't have the money to go to every
There are
show.
too many shows. There's not enough. There's not enough good shows.
Yeah, that's. Do y'all remember? I used to call them garage sale shows.
Yep.
They popped up, would have one or two, maybe three artists, but
Yep.
then all they were selling were the dollar comics that they were going
Yep.
around beating up from everybody.
They did it at a hotel conference room.
Yeah,
Yep.
I hated that because
They still pop up here. They still pop up here. They're down the street from my house all the time. I never go. They're honestly one of my favorite shows I've ever done. And you've seen me there at in Waco, Hart, Texas. I loved going to Waco. Was to this day one of my favorite cities to go to. One of my favorite shows I ever worked. Made a ton of money there. The audience really came out, but that was a small quality show. There are too many big shows that are bad, like Pandemic. Pandemic had the possibility of it had the build of being a good show. Jason, you know, Jason, you were there. It had a great premise, great lineup, crap show. The excuse was crap. Um, this 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 new Celebrity Fan Fest crap. Bob Willis' show. Poor execution. There needs to be more quality shows out there, and I think it takes people that come from the industry, from the actual publishing side and the creative side of the industry, start working behind the scenes to make a better show for the fans. Because let's be real, Nick, if you had better creators at a show and you had more of a better layout for, and you knew where you can go to find art for your walls, or art for your collection, or sketches for your personal collection. Would that be better than just have it randomly set up?
Oh yeah, big time. And from a fan perspective, what I've seen with a lot of these bigger shows coming up, they're calling themselves Comic Con, but they're leaving out the main word, which is comic. They're leaving out what I think is the pivotal piece of what a convention Comic Con should be, and it's focusing more on the art instead of the 40, 50 celebrities that they have come in. The god awful style football field size of nothing but merchandise, and then another football field in front of, and then they have just small slivers with actual comic books. It's like the comic version is starting to get smaller and smaller at these conventions, just to be able to bring in the everyday person, because hey, we got Jason Momoa here, or hey, we got William Shatner over here. It's no longer me what the convention at the Comic Con used to be about. It's now, what can I do to get this person in the door to get as much money for them as possible?
Yeah.
Be damned if the actual art is there.
But I think a lot of these shows, they're cannibalizing each other. Because there's so many shows on top of each other, that when you have to pick between one show or the other, you don't know which ones are going to be good and which ones are not. Kind of go. It's kind of a crapshoot. It's a big gamble. Every time it's a gamble.
And that's one
But
of the reasons why we're moving away from just an art table, is we're
yeah,
looking at getting over in the vendor area, because we can sell other things to help supplement to keep the book going until we get a following.
but what do you
And
think about? What do we're talking about conventions. What do y'all think about conventions blacklisting people for picking one show or the other?
Um,
Do you think that's right?
I mean, I think it would be depending on the circumstances on it. I mean, like I said, the question is you got to ask, what did they do to get that happening to them? I mean, if they did something bad, okay, that's understandable. But if it's like some ridiculous reason why they did it, no, they shouldn't do it.
You know, like I can understand. Like, y'all remember Junior Snap?
Yeah,
See, I can understand like her getting blacklisted because of what she did, stealing art, resisting images, that kind of stuff. I can understand that, but you get blacklisted from one show because you picked one show over the other. I'm sorry, that's just not cool.
yeah, I agree. That's ridiculous.
you have to,
We're a community. We're a community here. We all came to the thing because initially because of the love of the industry, but then it became about business. But I think even like I've met fans that hey I can't go to that show because they won't let me through the door because I was like, are you kidding me? Like no, they won't. I had a disagreement with the promoter. And won't let me come in. I'm like, well, that's just bullshit. I'm sorry. Yeah,
and
I
I
mean,
can,
I've heard of like when they had remember when they had Rockula and Alamo City and something else going on at the same time.
Yeah,
I heard about creators getting blacklisted from one show or the other.
and that's ego, and that's
Yeah,
part of the problem. Um, you
me,
see that in it can happen from like big name artists who have met somebody and at some point they had a disagreement. They won't do a show because somebody else is doing the show.
right.
And the real thing is that we should all be working together to keep the industry alive. Um, the It's also like whenever you're trying to put a comic together, you look for a sequential artist. You usually have a an inker or and a colorist, and we do our own lettering. But we have artists who I don't like working with anybody else, so I'll do the pen, the coloring, and they want to do everything, and then they want to charge you so much where then you have to raise the price of the book that you
Right,
shot yourself in the foot.
right.
You know, so and we've helped plenty of artists get their start, and then they get picked up and moved on to somebody else because we connect.
Y'all gave me a whenever I was struggling. And I stopped working with Advent Comics years ago. Had nothing going on, and you guys gave me a piece to do years ago. I don't know whatever happened to it, and I wish I can go back and get a mulligan on it because that was a terrible piece. I look at it now, and like, damn, that was just bad. I want to redo it, but you guys do help. You guys actually care about the industry.
We've always tried to help. Just because you know what we talked about been done at the beginning of this. When I was a kid, he was doing Ninja High School and some of those others, and he had a table at a time, and I had some of my inked work, and I asked him if I could sit next to him, and so he let me use his coloring pens, and so I colored. He gave me some tips and hints on how to do some of the shading and blending, and so then people started coming up and talking to me, and they were like, "Well, are you?" And I know I'm just a fan. I just was lucky enough because I knew somebody he knew, and he had introduced me, and then I ended up having him. He signed some of my work, and I said, "These are for my personal collection, and I would like to have your name because you helped me, and I've got them in frames in my office." Um, You don't see that anymore.
You know,
Um, Everybody is in it for themselves, and that's hurting us.
yeah.
We should be
Well,
thinking
I'll tell you what. I'm actually I'm actually going to be interviewing Bart Spears and Andy Smith this coming Tuesday, and to have an art team like that, a duo, because there art teams rarely exist these days outside of Jim Lee and Scott Williams. You don't see art teams that have traveled the world, worked on every book in the world together, and then we are actually going to talk about their indie work because they've done so much indie work. We have a love for indie creators and teaching and cult- sorry, I'm lost in words.
No, brother.
Sorry, my bad. They have a love for teaching and nurturing the next generation of artists, and which is good because there's like you don't like you said you don't see that anymore. You don't see that they pay it forward in this industry. So I'm about, hey, if you're good, I'm gonna tell you how good you are. But yeah, I'm gonna tell you. I'm really gonna tell you how bad. I'm gonna tell you how bad you are. But I'm really trying to praise your work, just so you go take 2 steps back. Every artist out there, like me and Jason, if I'm sitting next to you, Jason, I'm trying to take all your money, and you're trying to take mine. That's just the name of the game. But what we should be lifting each other up, and because like I said, we all came to this industry from the love of it and that kind of stuff. But well, gentlemen, that's been an hour and a half of talking to y'all, having a good time. And actually, we really didn't stick to the topic at hand, but we did for a little bit. And I appreciate your time. It was a pure pleasure. I mean, I would love to do it again. I mean, I'm gonna put off my next broadcast until later tonight, so I can let my voice rest. It was a lot of fun. This is my first episode. I'll be posting on Saturday, next Saturday on the 27th. Actually, no, I'm posting this tonight. I'm actually posting this in a matter of hours. Um, Send me all your links to your sites, your Facebook, your Instagram, your web pages, whatever, however people can get in touch with you guys, especially for your book. Um, Floyd, go ahead and plug all your stuff. Tell me what you got going.
well, what we've gotten right now is we picked up a French artist who is part of a group, and we are going to be bringing their books over and translating them into English, and they are helping us finish our series with the artwork. So it's a trade-off. We're helping each other. I'm working on 3 stories right now. One is a haunted western that it got to be too big. It was over 12 issues, and I'm like, okay, I need to truncate this down and maybe move some of it to another series if this one works. I'm working on a 1940 science fiction book because I'm just a fan of that kind of genre, and then my own take on a Seven Samurai, um, the Magnificent Seven,
Well, hey,
but
hey,
but in
Floyd,
a
can I put you on the spot?
reincarnation.
Can I put you on the spot? I'm gonna ask you something very publicly.
Okay.
July is Independent Comics Month for me. And I would love to get you and Mark to do a dual interview with you guys, talk about all our stratum and what y'all do.
Yeah, you're right. We'll be right there. You
Tell you
know,
what, after this is all over with, we'll talk privately. We'll set it up. Like I said, I'd love to talk to you and Mark about everything you'll have from the past, the future you have going on right now. Everything, all about y'all, and put it out as part of my indie celebration for July.
brother.
All right, bro. So,
There.
Jason, what you got going on, bro? Besides growing that wild hair.
Oh, me? Uh, Still working on Crypto Living Man right now, man. I kind of been taking my time on it, just because it's turned into a big monster now. it was just supposed to be a simple comedy comic. It was supposed to be like little strips and everything, but we started thinking about more and more stuff that we could do with it. And me and Rhett, who's the writer on it, mainly, it's turned into something where we made up some comic. Like, we were just thinking, like, my page issue type thing. Now with all these ideas that came into it, it's looking like we might be able to make it into like a comic. I'm hoping to have like 5 issues done by October. And then from there, we're going to try to see how fun it is. We're looking to do digital, but the other one I'm working on right now is that other one I told you I was making for people to have it. That one's going to be more dark oriented. Pretty much like, it's going to involve like two guys that are just doing a lot of drugs, and their answer to getting off the habit was getting rid of all the drugs. So, but it sounds like a simple concept, but it's going to get around much more elaborate where it leads them and stuff like that. So we're trying to get those 2 out by the first one. We remember October, the next one by the end of the year. If we're picking habits, we're only going to have like the first 2 issues out by the end of the year, though. So we'll see what happens from there. But right now, yeah, like I said, if we can get it out, we can get it published. We'll have it out there hopefully soon enough. And then I can stop doing a lot of fan art. I don't mind doing fan art. I prefer to do this. I love doing my own creation.
Yeah.
And I love making my own stuff and everything.
Freedom, bring your crazy life.
I like it. It's just, the whole idea of having a creativity and stuff. And it's just, I like doing that. But so it's fun going to another character to a point and have your own little spin on my own. But it's still, I need a creative freedom. And like I said, that came to me with the River Man, and I was like, you know what, I'm doing it. I know it's not like something that the industry usually looks at, like comedy comics are big, but I read it, an idea, and I was like, I gotta do this. So hopefully we'll talk. Hopefully we get it going. But I don't know, we'll see at the end of the year now.
Yeah. So Nick, Mr. Vendageek, and for you guys that don't know, Vendageek is actually his level he uses to do his 3D printing, and he does webcasting. He does some amazing work. So tell us about some of the stuff you've got into the WWE and what you got going on, what you're working on. Tell me something of that. Tell me something you haven't told me yet. You tell me about everything.
So right now, I am in the middle of the cosplay competition. A costume I'm working on is the from Doom Eternal video game. I'm building a suit of armor, helmet, blade, everything. So spending the next 6 months building that. Got the Ninja Turtles movie, first 90 film. I'm doing the Shredder costume. So I'm working on that right now. Big fan of the movie. I ended up getting the toy on eBay for a good price.
Yeah,
you
should show up that helmet. He actually did a full Shredder helmet. Friggin' sick. Oh my gosh, so sick.
And surprising, it's comfy. So I got that going on. Been doing a lot more actual design and fabrication in 3D modeling and actual 3D printing. I've added a couple of resin printers to the 6 that I have right now. So been doing a lot of that. Been doing some work for you, Brian.
Yeah,
modeling.
He's actually gonna be doing our bus printing for a book I have coming out with Eddie Nunez, and he's been doing our bus printing for our Kickstarter.
I'm going to need to get his information because we've been trying to get figures created.
Oh yeah,
for our characters, and then
maybe he can print translucent too.
Oh, same here then. Yeah.
He did a red lantern ring, translucent. He actually did create some lithographs from it too. Remember that Johnny Cash I did years ago, Floyd, in the crow print I did years ago?
Yeah.
He actually made those into lithographs for me. They're so sweet. I'll send you one of each. They're so beautiful. They're and it does quality work. So I'll definitely get you. I'll put you guys in contact with each other. I'll connect you guys. This is what the part of this industry is about: is connecting each other and helping each other out and growing this industry leaps and bounds from what it was beforehand. But hey guys, that's all our time today. I appreciate you joining me for episode one. It was a lot of fun. You guys are. I mean, even though I was the only one to drop that swear word, I'll have to watch it next time.
Yeah, language,
But
man. Language.
I won't say shit as much. Like,
Well,
shit.
there's the people who say that cussing is a sign of intelligence. So
Yeah, yeah. Not my wife's not one of them. No,
That's why I joined the Navy.
you guys have
That's a lot of
all
people.
you guys. So from me to you guys, happy Father's Day.
thank
Be
you.
safe,
Father's
stay
Day.
healthy. Don't do anything dumb out there, and we all got to get together and do this again on another topic. It's a lot of
I'd
fun.
love to. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, it was an honor.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop the
Nice
broadcast.
meeting you. And hopefully,
Yes,
talk to you soon.
Nick, I'll talk to you later about this.
Yeah.